Question 13. Don says, I was wondering about the magical, shall I say, principles behind the fifth density entity giving this service and his ability to give it. Why is he able to utilize these particular physical distortions from a philosophical or magical point of view? Good question. Ra says, this entity is able to, shall we say, penetrate in time-space configuration the field of this particular entity. It has moved through the quarantine without any vehicle and, thus, has been more able to escape detection by the net of the Guardians. Let me just say a couple of things here. Okay, it's a really good question because, okay, philosophically or magically, how is this entity, the negative entity, fifth density negative entity, able to make its incursions into the physical complex of Carla? You know, what's the mechanic here? What's happening? Well, first, Ross says that this entity is able to penetrate the time-space configuration of the field of Carla, right? The auric field and the time-space body of Carla. So it can infringe upon her free will and do this for its specific purpose. They also say that they have moved through the quarantine without any vehicle, and thus has been more able to escape detection by the net of the Guardians. I don't know if I want to extend myself too long here, but I do want to leave the impression that, you see, these Guardians, if they were, just for you to see that these Guardians, they all have an agenda too. I'm not saying that they're evil. Please don't listen to me with human ears, but in the grand scheme of things, and now I'm talking about the whole creation, if you're guarding something, it's because you still believe that there's a sort of activity that we must do. See, I'm not challenging, of course, the positivity of guardians and the people who are doing all of this, but there's still a sort of conflict or friction in this level of consciousness, this level of mind. And so for an entity to escape detection by the net of guardians, you know, it's a lot. I like I said, I can go on for a while here and talk about how this is a polarized view still, seems to me. I may be wrong. Maybe I'm just an ignorant in how all of this works metaphysically. But yeah, if there was a really net of guardians there, there's another mechanism that comes into play here, which is the quarantine and the balancing effect. So I don't know, it just makes a little bit of noise to me that an entity was able to escape the detection by the net of guardians. Are they vulnerable, or do they allow this? But if there was a detection and they were able to escape that, they were able to escape that detection, what's going on? Are they, I don't know. I really don't know. But it does show that there is a sort of permeability in the mind of these guardians and everything else. Where are these guardians from? What density? I forget. I don't know if they're from 4th, from 5th. Maybe that's their learning. What is safe to say is that the Logos is with true neutrality, and everything that is happening is part of its own learning, or its contribution to the grand central sun of learning. I know I'm going way off track here, but I wanted to mention all of this, that even within the workings of the Confederation, let me just give an example. Ra, for starters, they're still learning. They're still making mistakes, let's call them in human terms. They just see opportunities for learning. Well, these are opportunities for learning of the Guardians, meaning that they are still sort of part of the evolution. So just a reminder of that a lot of these entities and Guardians and Confederations and so on, they're all in the process of learning. I mean, the whole universe is in the process of learning, right? But the levels in which this is happening. I just wanted to mention that, because, I don't know, it may seem like some people say, well, we're being guarded, so we're all safe. who's safe? The separate self? That's a good question. So I always like to bring this, into the light of unity and what is actually happening between all the turmoil of the evolution within the octave in this solar system. So anyhow, I feel like I'm rambling. Let's go with more of the answer that Ross says here in question 13. They say, this is the great virtue of the magical working, whereby consciousness is sent forth, essentially without vehicle, as light. The light would work instantly upon the untuned individual by suggestion. That is, the stepping out in front of the traffic, because the suggestion is that there is no traffic. This entity, as each in this group, is enough disciplined in the ways of love and light that it is not suggestible to any great extent. So, a lot of speculation here we can get, but let's just go with the mechanics of what's happening. First, the fifth density entity is penetrating or is able to work within the field of Carla. That's because she had some weaknesses there. And so they do it without vehicle. Let's remember that part for question 15, I think. Essentially without vehicle. Maybe that's the key phrase, essentially without vehicle. So they move their consciousness. They move with consciousness through the quarantine, and the light would work instantly upon an untuned individual by suggestion. The way in which they do suggestion, it's a very interesting thing, and I'll get to that at the end of this answer. But that's what they're doing. They're working towards suggestion of our psyche to do things or to act in ways that are incongruent with what we actually want to do, with our true nature. That's the negative action, right? Or suggestion. So they say, step in front of the traffic, because the suggestion is that there is no traffic. Oh, traffic's clear, let me just walk, and you get run over by a car. But Carla was enough discipline in the ways of love and light that she wasn't suggestible to any great extent in this way, of course. And I'll give some examples of this. You will relate. So this is how it works. They go through, if you remember from last video, first part of this session, space-time fifth density, they move into time-space fifth density, they travel in consciousness to third density time-space, and then from third density time-space they work within the field of Carla in this case, and it causes a physical or space-time reaction. So with that, they work through suggestions, and I'm not sure how they cause pain, because they do cause pain, somehow influencing the entity to do things, because all they do is suggest things. This helps them to not break the law of responsibility, the first distortion, the law of free will. So there's more to say here. Roth finishes and says, however, there is a predisposition of the physical complex which this entity is making maximal use of as regards the instrument, hoping, for instance, by means of increasing dizziness, to cause the instrument to fall, or to indeed walk in front of your traffic because of impaired vision. The magical principles, shall we say, may be loosely translated into your system of magic, whereby symbols are used and traced and visualized in order to develop the power of the light. Wow, that sounds all esoteric. It's not so much once I pair it with experience. And I hope you have this experience, because I'll tell you why I'm laughing. Okay, so there's a predisposition of the physical complex in Carla, which the entity, the fifth density negative entity, they make use of, which is the dissonance or the impaired vision in all of this, because they wanted to kill Carla. They wanted Carla to cease the contact. So it's like the people who beg you not to do things. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. It's gonna bring demise to me. Like your mom used to be when you went out as a teenager and spent the night somewhere, or went to parties, or went to the disco. I'm sorry, I was raised in a different country, so at 15 I was inside clubs and all of that. So thanks to my older brother. Thank you, G. So yeah, your parents would freak out. Actually, my mom didn't freak out because I was my older brother. But you get the picture. So people begging you not to do things. That's sort of the same thing that they're doing here. They're begging Carla to die, so she could cease in the transmission and reception. Actually, the reception of the channeling, the information here. There are several reasons why they wanted that, and I'll get to that too. Now, this is what I wanted to offer you, and that's why I was laughing. The magical principles, how this works. They may be loosely translated into your system of magic, whereby symbols are used and traced and visualized in order to develop the power of the light. I've made this. I thought that everybody had these thoughts, because I've asked a lot of people and they say like, oh yeah, I've had similar thoughts. But I've had other people who never had this thought. So I call it the kitchen and the knife experience. If you're with somebody, I know, I'm a psychopath. I do get the symbols. I have negative entities around me. What can I tell you? If you have a knife in your kitchen and somebody else is around, have you ever got the thought, it's not to, you see, it's a sort of image of what the knife can do to somebody else, or push somebody, or these, I remember my mom used to say, like, that's the devil, tempting you to do evil things. So true. She was so right. Not the devil as an entity, but these are the negative entities showing you in your psyche things that you may do. So this is the suggestion, the influence that they may have. And again, maybe I'm susceptible to this kind of stuff. Maybe I have some sort of susceptibility in me. Perhaps I've done it in previous lives, so it's just like a memory to me to just imagine these things. I don't know. I feel strange. Please somebody comment on this video so I feel better. That I'm not the only one who has these thoughts of the kitchen knife when somebody's around. I mean, I don't have them all the time, but you see, it's one of those things. Maybe it's something else, like yelling at somebody, but you don't, or punching somebody, but you don't. All of these are negatively influenced. So you see, you don't have to think that there is a negative entity flying around or within me that has. It's all perception. So the negativity is really the permeability that exists within your auric field to at least consider these possibilities. But your choice is what really matters. I haven't stabbed anybody in my life yet. I'm kidding. I don't think I'll ever do it. But you see, I don't. It's the choice, you never. Of course, at this point, it's just like, why am I even having these thoughts? It's like so unaligned with you. So these are real things. I'm glad that these things are happening. And that I have actually, let me confess something. I've actually hurt people physically, and when it should have been, a pleasurable thing or a pleasant encounter, I've hurt people physically. And I'm not ashamed of it. You see, because, of course, what shame is. It's just a stupid regret that we feel like we have to carry with you. But you forgive yourself and never make that mistake again. So I'm glad of that, because I know by experience what it is to be, evil, what it is to be hurtful to people. So, I don't even like to say I'm not perfect. I know I'm perfect, because I know who I am. But the expression, the manifestation of myself needs to be imperfect. So I deal with that imperfection, and I'm okay with that. I am aware that of my perfection within my apparent imperfections. And I'm grateful for that. This is the gratitude that one must have with all the negative things that, are still worrying us. That's just negativity there. And it's really the choice and how you decide to act that makes the difference and polarizes you. You see? So, yes, it just reminds, the last thing I would say is the Dalai Lama, one of them, I don't know, I think it's one of the recent ones, perhaps the current one. He had to be explained what is self-hatred because he couldn't understand that. Of course, in his experience, he's never experienced self-hatred, so he doesn't know what it is. And he literally had to have somebody, or self-hatred or self-deprecation or something that is just worthlessness. And to him, that was just like such a foreign concept. He couldn't even understand it. You see? So, oh, I want to be like the Dalai Lama. Why? Why? You have your own experiences and you're here to deal with them. So, I'm grateful for not being unaware of things that are so real in the world. And so I deal with them.